Hello, listeners. This is Kat, and welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of Little Acts of Kindness. This will be Part 99, Chapter 99, entitled Midoriya Gets Kidnapped. Midoriya Hisashi had been living in America for over 20 years now, and he loved it. What he was a bit concerned about was the lack of letters from his sister. For the past 6 years, she's been quiet, and he was getting anxious that she had been found out. Which was why he had come back to Japan after all these years, because he needed to know what happened to his sister. He knew she had a son, who had some sort of quirk that let him copy another person's quirk. Hisashi thought it was too much of a risk for his quirk to be known, given how dangerous all for one was. And being related to the CEO of the Hero Commission left them open to all sorts of attacks on both sides of the fence. But for all he thought that it was stupid of her to stay in Japan, he still loved her and came back to find out what was going on. The money he sent her was still being used after all. He exited the plane and made his way to the last known address, something she had painfully sent him, letter by letter, only one clue given in each, just in case their letters were intercepted. He found the apartment and waited a moment watching outside. He saw no movement, so he made his way closer. After a glance around, he entered the apartment, lock-picking the door. He found his sister sitting on the couch. "Inko?" he asked, coming over to her. Her eyes flickered over to him, and a small frown came to her face. It took a painstakingly long time before she answered. "Hisashi?" "Yeah, it's me," he said. "You shouldn't be here," she said, her tone empty. "It's dangerous." "What do you mean it's dangerous? Why are you speaking like that? What happened?" he asked. The woman stared at him vacantly. "Go. Flee. Take Izu," she said. "Where is he?" he asked. "Out. In danger," she said, repeating herself. "Who is he in danger from?" "Izuku's quirkless. Told him he's quirkless. Quirk's not good for him," his sister said, still monotone. He looked at his sister sadly, wondering what had happened. Perhaps it was time to visit their friend. He left the house. He would come back later to take Izuku with him, and to flee the country with his nephew. He wondered how much the boy knew. Inko had been reluctant in her last letters to tell him, saying she would do so when he was older. Did she ever get the chance? Hisashi went, finding the doctor's address, but found nothing but an abandoned building. He grimaced, hating to have to place a call, but he did so, dialing the number he had memorized. Dr. Subasa answered. "What's your emergency? It better be important." "What happened to my sister?" he demanded. "I'll explain in person," the doctor said. "Sending you a location now," he informed. Soon Hisashi got the text and deleted it. He took the metro out to the city and found the location. He went there and saw the doctor already waiting. "You took your sweet time," the man said. "Sorry, I had to take the train. Now what happened to Inko?" he demanded. The doctor huffed, grumbling about insolent brats, and he rolled his eyes. "We're only a few years younger than you," he said. "Your sister was out with her son when she encountered my father," the man said bluntly. "She told Izuku to run, while she tried to fight off my father. He won, and she was left critically injured. Izuku had managed to bring a hero back, and they brought her to a hospital, where she was soon pronounced dead. You're lucky your nephew was smart enough to call me. I got there in time to save her, somewhat. I used some of the techniques my father developed in order to restart the functions of her body and brain. Unfortunately, due to the length of the time that she had been expired, and the process used to revive her, she was left as a partial Nomu. Unlike normal Nomu, she does not have to follow commands, nor does she have any extra quirks. Really, the only similarity is that she was a corpse brought back to life after a period of death." "Would it not have been wiser to let her die than to turn her into an abomination?" Hisashi asked, looking appalled. Izuku needed someone to look after him, and with him being quirkless, it was too dangerous to let him be entered into the foster system. At least with her being somewhat alive, he can live somewhat protected and safe. Do you know how many times I've had to fix that boy up because of kids his own age? Adults would have been worse. I still fear he will call me having ended up in another mishap where his only chance of living would be a Nomu, and then where would I be? My whole life wasted, trying to protect your family. He snapped back. Hisashi flinched a bit as the doctor glared. I swore I would protect Inko for the rest of my life to repay my debt to her. She begged me to help Izuku as best I could. Now I'm being hunted down not just by villains, but also the heroes are looking for me, he said. Izuku goes to UA and is a hero student. He knows what his quirk is. He has heroes to protect him, but his grandfather has discovered him. The black-haired man's eyes widened at that. What? He whispered, paling and horrified. The doctor huffed. Things have changed from what I've heard, at least according to my connections. The man's not focused on his work so much, but still, I know your childhood wasn't great with him. But from what I've discovered, Izuku seems to enjoy his grandfather's company. That man is a manipulative asshole who only cares about his work, Hisashi said. Subasa raised an eyebrow, staring at him, and Hisashi shrinked back a bit, looking away. You'd think with 20 years under your belt, you'd be able to look back a bit more rationally. The doctor chided. Hisashi huffed, rubbing the back of his neck. He never spent time with us, he said. He put his work before us. He tried to get us to be interested in his job and take over. We learned things no kid should ever be exposed to. I know he loved us, loves us, but he's a terrible parent. And I don't want my nephew being exposed to such things like we were. He deserves the chance to just be a kid, Hisashi said. They couldn't take it, the pressure, the stuff they had to learn, so they ran away, fleeing, cutting contact. Hisashi knew, logically, that had their father really wanted to find them, they would have been found. He knew that. He knew their father had let them run away, let them choose their own lives. He just... Would Izuku really not be exposed to such things? Would their father have learned his lesson? The interactions my father and Izuku have, do you know anything about them? They don't happen often, only a couple of times so far. Last I heard, he apparently baked cookies with the boy, Subasa answered. You have your answers. You need to choose what you want to do with that info. But we should get out of here. I don't want to stick around exposed like this for so long, he said. Hisashi nodded, and the two of them left in split paths. Hisashi had a choice to make now. Did he take his nephew away and risk being on the radar of heroes and his father alike? Or did he leave the boy, go back to America, and let the situation play out? Or did he give Izuku a way to reach him, open up that dangerous path, and then go back to America? After only a few minutes, Hisashi felt like he was being followed. Kumo stretched, walking with Tenrei through the streets of the new town he had moved in. He was quite enjoying this area, living in the new apartment. The neighbors were nice, though he worried for Midoriya, the boy he had taken to watching. The boy was friendly, if shy and nervous, hesitant and wary. Signs he recognized as something abuse victims or bullying victims commonly showed, which made him worried. But given the state of Midoriya's mother, it was unlikely to be abuse, which meant bullying. Midoriya also seemed to be getting more confident, though, so Kumo suspected he was out and away from the bullying, which was good. It'd surprise him if bullying was happening at UA. He was a bit concerned, though, given how busy Midoriya was. He didn't think the boy would have time to make dinner for himself every night, certainly not a home-cooked meal. And the mention the boy gave about being frequently attacked while shopping wasn't reassuring either. So Kumo might have noticed the fact that Midoriya had left earlier, and he suspected it was to go shopping for food. He wasn't purposefully trying to stalk the boy, he just didn't want to leave the boy alone. It was his task to watch and protect Midoriya. Kumo was glad he had made the decision as well, as soon Tenrei was tugging at his leash and whining. Kumo hurried his pace and found Izuku being attacked. He let go of Tenrei's leash with a command, and soon the attacker was subdued. The purple-haired man went over to his neighbor and asked him if he was okay, and Midoriya gave a small nod, despite having a wounded arm. Kumo gave a smile and helped to bandage up the wound, chatting about various subjects, rambling whatever came to his mind. Keigo flared out his wings, flying through the air, stopping every so often for a few seconds as his feathers were sent out, helping civilians in need. When his headphones patched a call through automatically, though, he landed on a roof. "What's up?" he greeted, tone friendly, even if he dreaded whatever she would want. "One of the targets has been spotted in Japan. It's your job to capture him. Info is being sent now," the woman said. "You will drop everything to acquire this target. Agents are currently tailing him, and updates will be sent. Do not fail us." "Yes, ma'am," he said, and with a flap of his wings he took off, flying in a random direction, hoping that he started off in the wrong direction, to give the man a few extra seconds to get away. He doubted this man had done anything wrong, not if Hawks was being sent after him like this. His phone dinged, and he sighed, turning and flying in the right direction. It only took him a couple of minutes to fly to that area. He soon spotted the target, walking through the streets, and saw the man was glancing around, trying to act casual. But Hawks had enough training to see the slight tenseness, the way this man was wary of his surroundings. Hawks raised an eyebrow. The common civilian shouldn't be able to tell they were being followed, but this man was. Perhaps there was something more to him after all, but Hawks wondered if it really was enough to be brought to their attention. Especially hers. Hawks flew down, landing in front of the man. "Hello, I'm afraid I have to take you in," Hawks informed. "What for?" the man, Midoriya Hisashi, asked. "That information is classified," aka Hawks wasn't told. "I'm here to take you in," he said. The two other Hero Commission agents who had been tailing the man came out, surrounding him. Both agents had a red badge pin holding their badges up. He saw the way the man realized he wasn't getting out of this, the way he looked a bit nervous. "So, the CEO sent you to come fetch me?" he asked, in almost resigned tone. Hawks tilted his head. The CEO? Why would the man think someone so high-ranking would want him? Well, he supposed the man was somewhat correct. A high-ranking person did want him, just not the one he expected. "Not the CEO, Madam President," Hawks answered. The man seemed to freeze, and he glanced more obviously at the Hero Commission officers, his eyes flickering to their badges. "I see. And what does she want with me?" he asked, sounding wary. "Shut up and start moving," one of the goons finally snapped. Midoriya spun around and decked the guy, moving with fairly impressive speed for someone with no speed-related quirk. Hawks could have stopped him. He didn't, though, and let the asshole be punched, before sighing and knocking Midoriya out in a swift punch. He wondered if this guy was related to Tokuyami's friend. He hoped not. But Midoriya was a fairly common name, so what were the chances? Hawks left with the guy and brought him to Madam President, who looked smug. The number 3 hero quickly left, going back to save civilians, trying to shove the matter out of his mind. All right, listeners, this concludes Chapter 99 of Little Acts of Kindness. Chapter 100 will be up next. I'm eager to hear what you all thought about this chapter. I think it's really interesting. When I first heard the title, my initial thought was, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to Izuku? But knowing that it's actually Midoriya Hisashi that's actually getting taken was kind of a spin I wasn't expecting. I know that he was referenced before earlier in this fic, so it was really interesting to kind of see his character being brought back in, and we're getting a little bit more of an understanding about like some of the dynamics with other characters. Kumo, the neighbor, right, kind of playing a role there as well, and some tenseness that's kind of going on, and also just the dynamics with Dr. Subasa and kind of the dynamics between him and the Midoriya family, as well as Izuku and his grandfather, and kind of the tie-ins with what happened, maybe some of their family history as well. So I'm curious to hear what you all thought about it. So drop those comments below. As always, thank you all so much for listening.